Hello and welcome. I am Rajesh Kutti and you have just started watching the weekly edition of Bite the Bullet. The National Education Policy has just been announced. It will be a quantum leap for education in India and there will be very visible and definitive changes in every sector of this country. I have another important question to ask of you. Why are your children's history textbooks so different from the textbooks that we had studied in our schools maybe some 20-25 years ago? Today they differ greatly not only in looks and presentation, but most importantly they differ in their content. Our children are not taught that we Indians have more than 4,000 years of magnificent history behind us. Today our history books mainly portray how this country was conquered, looted, raped, plundered and dismembered by foreign invaders like the Afghans, the Turks, the Persians, the Dutch, the Portuguese and lastly the English. When we learn such a negative and distorted history about our own nation, we initially become apologetic, then defensive about it, and then finally we begin to avoid it. So today, let us travel backwards in time and try to get a better understanding of our own history, heritage, and culture.
Basic history can be divided broadly into the prehistoric and historical age, which lasted for about 35,000 years. Then the Metal Age began in 5000 BC when man started using copper and bronze to make his tools. It is said that the Dravidian race began this age in India. They mastered the use of small boats and amazingly developed trade relations with distant countries like Babylon, Egypt and Greece. They spoke the Dravidian language, and do you know that modern day Kannada, Tamil, Telugu and Malayalam originated from this very Dravidian language. This early civilization is famously known as the Indus Valley Civilization. It is from here that the story of Bharat begins. With the discovery of the civilization in 1922, India came to be recognized as a country with one of the most ancient civilizations of the world, which is about 3,500 years old.
Most historians believe that the Indus Valley pictographic script forms the basis of languages like Sanskrit and Tamil. Officially, that makes Tamil the oldest language in the world with a rich heritage of about 3,500 years. I bet you didn't know that.
The Indus Valley civilization was replaced by the Aryans sometime during 2000 to 1500 BC. Many of the present day languages in North India like Hindi, Punjabi and Bengali originated from Sanskrit. Did you know that the great Indian epics like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, which is presumed to have happened at this time, is written in Sanskrit? Evidence has also been found of a big battle that is supposed to have been fought between an Aryan clan called Bharatas and a confederation of 10 other Aryan clans, somewhat resembling the epic battle of Mahabharata. It is after the name of the victorious clan of the Bharatas that our country came to be called as Bharatvarsham or simply as Bharat.
The word Bharata means Agni or fire in Sanskrit. The word also means one thing that is in constant search of information.
By the 6th century BC, the Aryans had moved up to the plains of Narmada, where they founded 16 important kingdoms like Kosala, Gaushala, Kuru, Panchala, Surasena, Anga, Vanga, Magad, etc. Among these 16 great kingdoms, one kingdom, Magad, led by Emperor Bimbisar, rose to become a hugely powerful kingdom. His son Ajatashatru succeeded him and built the beautiful city of Patliputra. The city of Patliputra, which is modern day Patna, the capital of Bihar, remained the capital city of India for the next 1000 years.
While all this was happening in the 6th century BC, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, founded a new religion called Buddhism. At about the same time, another great saint named Vardhamana Mahavira founded Jainism in India. Both these religions today have a combined following of more than 550 million people, which is about 8% of the global population. Four of the greatest religions of the world, that is Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism and Sikhism, have their roots in India. That is our impact on the world and also our contribution to it.
In 327 BC, the Greeks under the world-conquering Alexander attacked the Paurava kingdom of King Purushottama, better known as Porus, to gain entry into India. Alexander eventually won the battle but suffered tremendously heavy losses and left India soon after that because his men were tired and they did not have the stomach to fight the powerful Nanda kings in northern India. A broken and disappointed Alexander died on his way back home 2 years after he left India in Babylon in 324 BC. So even Alexander the Great finally met his match in India. The powerful but unpopular Nanda dynasty was overthrown by Chandragupta Maurya in 324 BC, and then he went on to establish one of the greatest empires that the world had ever seen. His Prime Minister Chanakya went on to write the Arthashastra, which is even today acknowledged as the greatest book ever written on public administration and polity. After Chandragupta, his son Bindusar came to the throne in 300 BC. He was succeeded by his illustrious son Ashok in 273 BC. Samrat Ashok inherited a huge empire which included modern-day Iran, Pakistan, Afghanistan and Bangladesh. Later on, he adopted Buddhism and was greatly responsible for making it a truly world religion. The Ashokan sculpture of 4 lions standing back to back on the Ashokan pillar at Sarnath near Kashi was adopted by the government of India as its state symbol. History calls him as Ashoka the Great. Next to come is the most important period in Indian history. This period is also known as the Golden Age of India. This era begins with Sri Gupta laying the foundations of the Gupta Empire, which would go on to last for more than 250 years. The rise of the Gupta Empire is attributed to Samudragupta, who extended the boundaries of his empire in all directions and laid a rock-solid foundation for the consolidation of the Gupta Empire in India. Modern historians refer to him as the Napoleon of India. After Samudragupta came Chandragupta II, popularly known in Indian history as Vikramaditya. It is believed that Vikramaditya had the famous Navaratnas in his court, which included the great poet Kalidas, the great physician Dhanvantri, and the great astronomer Varahamihira, among many others. The great astronomer Varahamihira is believed to have introduced the zodiac or Rashi signs and is also believed to have laid the foundations of astrology in India. His great encyclopedic work, the Brihat Samhita, is considered a masterpiece on architecture, planetary motions, eclipses, timekeeping, astrology, and mathematics. It is such a shame that our children are not taught anything about these pioneering masters in their school syllabi. After the complete decline of the Gupta Empire in the 7th century, 2 great dynasties called the Pushyabhuti dynasty in northern India and the Chalukyan dynasty in southern India were established. During the reign of the Chalukyan king Pulakesin II, the Chalukyan kingdom extended over most of central and southern India. Although Pulakesin II was a Hindu ruler, there were 100 Buddhist monasteries in his kingdom, a true example of a secular and tolerant India.
Our history books state that King Harshavardhana of the Pushyabhuti dynasty was the last great Hindu king of India. but that is not correct. Our history books do not mention the house of the Gehadwalas of North India, who fought off numerous Turkish invasions and embarked upon a massive program of temple construction in Ayodhya, the birthplace of Lord Ram. This was later destroyed by the Mughal Emperor Babur, and a mosque, the Babri Masjid, was built upon it.
Do you know that one Indian king allied with the Chinese to fight a war to defeat an invader? They were the Chandelas of Bundelkhand under Yashovarman, who allied with the Chinese to fight off Turkish invasions. King Vidyadhar was the greatest Chandela king, and he killed the last Pratihara ruler of Kannauj for surrendering to Mahmud of Ghazni. The Chandelas were also the builders of the magnificent Khajuraho temples. See, such a magnificent legacy, and most of us are unaware of this. The Parmars of Malwa, who included King Bhoja, one of the greatest kings of medieval India, repelled 3 Turkish attacks on India. We are mostly taught about how we were subjugated by foreign invaders, but these facts of our history, when our predecessors won historic battles to defend our sovereignty, is rarely discussed or taught in our schools and educational institutions. Eminent Chauhan kings like Arno Raja, Vigraha Raja and Ajaya Raja, who founded the city of Ajayameru, now known as Ajmer, all fought and defeated Turkish attacks on India. Yet our children are not taught about this fantastic past. We are not taught about Jaisimha Siddharaja, who is regarded as the greatest king of Gujarat, a renowned warrior and builder of the Rudra Mahakala temple at Siddhapura. Naiki Devi, a queen regent who defeated the forces of Muhammad Ghori near Mount Abu, does not find a mention in our textbooks either. Astonishingly, we are not taught about the famous Karkota dynasty of Kashmir, which boasted of rulers like Lalitaditya, who made the Karkota dynasty the most powerful in India after the Guptas. Avantivarman of the Utpala dynasty, who commissioned an engineering project for the drainage and irrigation of the Kashmir Valley, which not only provided relief to the valley from floods, but also increased the land under cultivation, is completely missing from our history books. We are not taught about the iconic Rudramadevi of the Kakatiya dynasty, who ruled for almost 35 years. Vested interests in India have propagated this idea that trade, arts, culture, military evolution, etc. suffered a distinct decline in the 3 centuries after the death of Harshavardhana. Nothing is farther from the truth. The evidence of the growth of urban centers and a flourishing economy in the kingdoms of the Pratiharas, Parmars, Chahmanas, among many others, show the sheer dynamism and the continual growth of the Indian subcontinent.
We must take more pride in our history and heritage, because that will inspire the coming generations to make an attempt to recreate it again. Our coming generations should understand that India is an idea, a culture, and when we take this as an identity and begin to take pride in it, only then can we hope to attain the status of a truly great nation. So friends, first, please discuss the contents of this program with your children. The onus lies upon us to rewrite and teach a more balanced and responsible history so that our children grow up to be proud, global Indian citizens.
Friends, we at White Tulika are very sure that you will appreciate our efforts and subscribe to our channel for more such informative videos. Jai Hind.